I was thinking about one of the things that I struggled the most with when I was a beginner, and if I'd known what to do, I would have improved a lot faster. So in this video, I'm going to throw down the gauntlet and set an art challenge that will give you 3 skills that will fast track your growth as an artist. Oh, and I'll show you the drawing that I found, which served as the inspiration for this challenge, which I haven't shown anyone else, which will be a laugh at least. A laugh at my pain. But before I get into the skills, let me get into the challenge. You're going to find an old drawing that you've done and redraw it. Pick wisely because we're going to stick with the same sort of subject throughout this entire thing. And once you've done the drawing, you're going to look at it and you're going to do one of 2 things. Either pick something that you dislike about it, or pick an area that you struggled the most with. So if you felt that you were struggling with the proportions, then you're going to spend the next 6 days studying proportions. If you don't like the choice of color, study color theory. Then on day number 7, you're going to redraw it again, but focusing on that one thing that you've been studying for the past 6 days. Then we're going to repeat that process for 8 weeks. We're going to end up with 8 different drawings of the same subject, and you're going to have studied 8 different things. So that's the challenge. Nice and simple. Now let's move on to those skills. I'm going to start with the most important and impactful of the 3 skills because the other 2 will help you develop this one, which is to self-critique. Getting critique is one of the best ways to understand where you're going wrong. You ask someone to look at your work and they point out things that you previously didn't see. That's generally how it works. But there are a few things that are difficult about that entire process. 1, how do you find people to critique your work? And 2, how do you know whether the advice is actually good or not? And that can be difficult because as a beginner, you kind of need critique all the time. So finding a reliable source can feel kind of hopeless and inconsistent. But if you can self-critique by focusing on one thing at a time and highlighting your pain points, you'll know which direction to go in and which areas to study first. It's like suddenly being able to read a map and planning your artistic journey. So how do you highlight your pain points? This one takes a little bit of conscious thought, and you should take notes while you're drawing the thing. Think about the parts of the drawing that caused you the most stress and anxiety and got you the most frustrated. It may be a particular body part, the pose, the perspective, anything. For me, I know that my biggest pain point right now is coloring and rendering. I kind of don't really study it because I know I'm not very good at it. And because I know I'm not very good at it, I don't find it very fun, so I avoid it. And because I avoid it, I don't study it. It's a vicious cycle. But confronting your pain points forces you to break that cycle and actually focus on all areas of art, which makes you a better and more well-rounded artist. And once you've identified those pain points, you can really focus on them, which brings us on to the 3rd skill. Let's say that you've identified 3 pain points throughout your drawing. How can you focus on 3 things at once? Well, you shouldn't, so don't. So just pick one of them because you're going to address all 3 of them at some point anyway, so it doesn't really matter what order you do them in. But however you decide on what your pain point is, spend a few hours gathering various resources on it. So if your pain point was perspective, then find perspective books, a YouTube channel, articles, whatever. Then spend as long or as little as you want on that particular thing for 6 days. There isn't like a sweet spot or a magic number of how long you should spend studying on a particular thing, but generally speaking, it's better to spend 30 minutes every day for 6 days than spend like 2.5 hours on one day. So keep that in mind. So you're going to redraw it, you're going to see how it goes, and then you're going to start the whole process all over again. 8 times. So on to the grand finale. The reason that I called this the Harley Quinn challenge is because this is the drawing that I did in 2014. And oh God, good effort past me. Good job, but it's awful. Picking just one thing to focus on was actually quite difficult. So I decided just to sort of redraw it with my current skill set and go from there. And this is my first entry for the first week of this challenge. I've already mentioned it before, so I'm probably going to focus on color and rendering for the next redraw. So I'm going to get my color theory on for the next 6 days and see what happens. And just as a reminder for you, art isn't like a video game, unfortunately. Although we can gamify the experience of learning and have fun challenges like this one, learning the fundamentals is a lifetime experience. And just because you spent 6 days learning perspective doesn't mean that you'll never have to think about perspective or relearn it again. The point of this challenge is really to identify what you're struggling with the most and focus in on those areas instead of being overwhelmed by all the things that you have to learn. Because one of the things when you're a beginner is, where do you start? And that's a difficult question to answer. And sometimes we start in the wrong place. Like, I think most of us, when we're beginners, start way too early learning anatomy. I definitely did that. And it would have helped a lot more if I focused on something else like shapes and perspective and form and gesture drawings and then gone into anatomy. But I kind of skipped all of that and went straight for it. And it didn't go well. Also, learning is kind of lonely sometimes, especially when you don't have any people around you who are also into arts. So if we can all do this challenge together, then we won't feel so alone and depressed. God. I'm going to be posting each of my Harleys every week on my Instagram, which you can find in the description below. And I really, really hope that at least some of you do it as well. You don't have to do all 8, but if you do 2 or 3 of them, then you should get something out of this. And if you do, either tag me in your drawings or use the hashtag, I don't know, Brinkley redraws or something. I don't actually know if hashtags are a thing on Instagram anymore. So yeah, remember, it's not about being good, it's about getting better. So don't worry if you're not 100% satisfied with your drawings. I'm not 100% satisfied with my redraw, and I've already identified what I want to improve upon. Remember, that's what the point of this is. It's not to create pretty, amazing drawings, it's to identify and improve and get better. But if you don't want to post your work publicly, which I totally understand, or you don't use Instagram because it's kind of rubbish nowadays, then I have a Discord server available to my patrons, which again, you can see in the link below. It's sort of like a safer space where we can support each other and encourage each other and yay, all that stuff. So yeah, that's my challenge for myself and hopefully for you as well. I really, really hope that some of you take this on because I think it will help, and it would have helped me a lot more when I was a beginner. So yeah, and I'm going to be posting them on my Instagram anyway, regardless of whether other people do it or not. Remember, you don't have to draw Harley, you can draw whatever you want. I'm just doing Harley because that's the image that I found. So yeah, good luck, have fun. And next week, I'm going to do a video on copyright, and I said that in a really weird, robotic way. If you're confused about copyright or you want to know about it and like fan art and how to copyright your own creations and characters and all that sort of stuff, then subscribe and that'll be out in 2 weeks. And if you can't wait for 2 weeks, that's understandable. Have a look at this video instead, where I talk about copyright a little bit because I talk about AI art. I got a little bit angry in that one.